right. Hello, guys. Welcome to the very first episode of Mindful University, Adjust My Anxiety podcast. This podcast has been in the long term as far as planning goes. I think I announced it somewhere in November, but finally now we begin the first episode. And here, the very first guest, we have Sophia. Sophia, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome, awesome. So, pretty much the whole purpose of this podcast that I created, Mindful University, is pretty much just getting experience from college students, current college students, recent grads, giving us their own experience as far as the college life, mental health, because pretty much college life is like a stage in your own life. It's something that not only you go to college for school, but you kind of go there to find yourself in a way. So yeah, if you could please give us just a brief summary, who you are, what you're trying to do and stuff.
Yeah, so my name's Sophia. I am a senior at UCLA. I'm actually graduating this quarter, so in about 8 weeks, which is crazy. So all of this is coming to an end. I also create content. I'm on TikTok. I actually have my own podcast. It's called Life on Audio, and then I also make YouTube videos.
Cool, cool, awesome. Yeah, UCLA, like I haven't been to LA, I haven't been to UCLA, but I can tell you probably from just the what we hear about UCLA, party school, big school, a lot of students, and pretty much probably the best place to be to go to school if if you're into socializing with people and kind of just I guess living that good life, some would say.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like the best of both worlds because it's very academic, but you also have that social culture.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm assuming you started, so you're a senior now back in 2020 for going back 4 years?
Yep.
Awesome. So how was that transition? Because that was during COVID.
Yeah, so my first year of college was fully remote. So I actually didn't get to live on campus or have like the traditional freshman experience, which I think makes my college experience unique in its own way. But yeah, I can't completely complain about my freshman like year because I did get to have some really cool opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, yeah. But definitely with COVID, I know it kind of altered a bit the experience because I started grad school in 2020 and I pretty much was there from January of 2020, what felt like 3 weeks, and then everything shut down. So definitely I lost some of the grad school experience there. But yeah, pretty much when it comes to like I said, college, it's like it's a new stage in life for someone coming out of high school. You're leaving home if you go out of state from where you live, and you're kind of just in this new kind of out of your bubble in a way. So new people, obviously a new environment, and sometimes, at least for me, it kind of hits you in a way. It's like, whoa, like, I'm definitely not in my hometown. It's completely different. And sometimes it can affect us in a way. So how would you say that kind of transition was for you when you went to UCLA?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think high school for me was very academic. I was just straight focused on my academics. And so when I moved to LA and I all of a sudden had this like newfound freedom and I all of a sudden was like, okay, my whole life doesn't have to be academics because I did get into a good school and now I'm here and now I get to like experience my college like experience. And I specifically was like, I want to have like a work hard, play hard mentality. Like I want to have, both worlds. I think that at the beginning, it was like kind of going crazy, like trying to experience it all and do the most and saying yes to everything. And while that was amazing, I think ultimately that did take a toll on my mental health because it's like you can't do everything. And sometimes it's important to like say no when you're kind of struggling or like if you just recognize that you need a break. Like I just would not take breaks. Like I was trying to do everything and take in the whole entire experience. And I think part of that was just having that like pent up energy from being in quarantine and having to start my whole college experience like in my bedroom across the country and not being able to like have the freshman experience and all that. But yeah, I think with time I've sort of been on this like went hard and then since then been on this whole journey of just trying to like regain myself, figure out who I am as a human being and just like take a step back and try and enjoy everything without, I think I've just like burned myself out in that sense. So like it's more just like trying to kind of make it through and take whatever I can from the college experience that isn't like super intense.
Yeah, and I think like when it comes to obviously, going to school, going to high school, it's like teachers would tell you like, listen, like college is, to obviously go get an education and, trying to really study hard and get good grades and obviously, become professional once you graduate. But yeah, like I see like all these things they would tell you, and then you're kind of just trying to keep up and trying to like, not only go the study way, but also like, have a life. Which I think, it's, for a college student, like I said, new school, new classes, new environment, it can be a handful at times. So it is crucial to take, time for yourself and kind of slowly just break it down. Um, and what would you say would be like some mental health obstacles that came your way when you started college?
Um, Initially, okay, so when I like finally left home, I was actually having the time of my life. Like mentally was doing the best that I had been at up until or like in a long time. But I think eventually just like wearing myself out with just going super intense, it definitely started to hit. And by the like winter quarter, so about 2 years ago, of my sophomore year, I just like started to feel very miserable and lonely and just like unhappy with where I was. I think the best way I can describe it is it felt like there was just like this like dark looming cloud over me at all times. And I was trying to enjoy my time at UCLA, but I just couldn't because I just felt like so down and miserable. And that was definitely something that took a really long time to come out of, just kind of working through and like the mental health journey that I had going from there was just like a big roller coaster ride that took a really long time to kind of work through. But yeah, I'm like grateful that I went through that process just because I feel like I came out of it stronger.
Yeah, and I know like when it comes to like going to a new school, obviously you're gonna go there and meet new people. For some, certainly it was tough. It is tough to make friends and kind of be open. How would you say that that was for you?
Yeah, I feel like I've gone through very different phases throughout. So I've had the phases where I've been insanely social, I've had a ton of friends, and then I've had phases where I felt like relatively alone. I think we could talk about like protecting our peace. I feel like as part of that mental health journey, I kind of realized I needed to like protect my peace and just like, like kind of cut out the people who I felt like weren't really providing me with something. I felt like the best way I can describe it is I feel like college is just like this time of temporary friendships, and you're going to meet a lot of people, you're going to become friends with them really quickly. And over time, you're going to see people just kind of like filter out of your life. And that was sort of my experience. I feel like I've had so many new friends come in and then like at some point kind of walk out of my life, or like I realized maybe the friendship wasn't serving me a purpose and I was like, okay, maybe it's time to just like take a step back and not put in as much effort and see where it goes, and then it just kind of like fades away. So yeah, I mean, I think at this point I would say I don't have like a ton of friends, but the friends that I do have are people that have been around for a long time and like have been really great friends of mine and have been there when I needed someone.
Yeah, I mean, I could say I relate to that because pretty much now my best friends are the friends that I've pretty much gone to school with, middle school, high school, and that just stuck around even though they've gone to different schools in different states. And yeah, just going into like you said, you would make college friends, but they just wouldn't stick around. And I think I also had that experience where when I went to my 4-year school, I made friends, but I made friends because I played sports over there. I played soccer. And once that was done, it kind of began to fade away. So like in the end, I kind of like just tell myself like I think I'm done making friends because I already have my friends like that know me and kind of can relate to. Even though yes, I did have these temporary friends in college, I just necessarily never connected in a way. And I think that just goes to just the fact that we just didn't know each other for that long and it kind of takes some time to kind of open up and really, be that friend like your friends back in your hometown and stuff. So yeah, no, definitely I totally agree with the whole, friends in college that may stick around, but kind of don't be surprised that if they don't, because like it is college and you go there 4 years and then you leave.
Yeah. And I feel like you go through so many phases in the time that you're in college. So you have friends for different phases.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just obviously that mentality. When you're a freshman, you could either, like I said, go the route of just school, or both, or just straight up party. And then like as you gradually go into sophomore, junior, senior year, you begin to obviously be a bit more mature and then look at the bigger picture, which is obviously your future, your career.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm assuming you pretty much went through those stages as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So basically just going off of the mental health aspect, would you say you would get sort of like some symptoms from mental health that kind of affected you in a way?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I would feel very miserable, very down. There was a point where kind of like towards the end of my mental health, I mean, obviously it's a constant journey, but when I mean like mental health journey where I was like really struggling with it, I wasn't I called it like functional depression in the sense that I was totally functional, like I was going to my classes, I was doing everything I needed to do, but in my mind, I was like depressed. And no one ever said that, oh, you have depression, because at the time I was seeing like a psychiatrist and all that. But I just kind of knew I was like, this is not right. Like, I'm not really like, I'm not motivated to keep going, but somehow I still am going. So that was definitely something I remember like in my sophomore year when it kind of started. I would have these like mental crises every so often, and it would usually happen at night. And I was just like, I I mean, I try and call someone up or like, if someone was around, talk to them, but it was just like I would just spiral at night and I felt very alone in that moment. So I've had like a number of different symptoms throughout the time. Anxiety is also like a huge one. I mean, I've kind of experienced it throughout, but like more so in certain periods and all that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the norm when it comes to anxiety. You definitely get these thoughts sometimes, deep thoughts that you don't want to think about, but it just comes in your head because that's how anxiety pretty much is. So you say apart from like calling your friends, what else would you do to kind of cope with that?
I feel like in the moment, I never knew what to do. It was always a struggle, and I would just hope that I could come out of it. I mean, obviously, at some point, I was like, okay, something needs to be done about this. And that's when I started seeing, I mean, I tried a couple of different therapists and then ultimately ended up seeing a psychiatrist, and I got on to some antidepressants. And I tried that for a little bit. And like, it was in the time that I started to kind of come out from all of that. And so eventually I got to a point where I just felt like I didn't need, I honestly don't know if the medication ever did anything or whether there was just sort of an upward trend as I was trying them out. But at some point I got to a point where I felt like I could just like stabilize my mental health on my own. And that has been a game changer because definitely being back in school, this was like over the summer. So being back in school has definitely been, I have my moments right now. Winter quarter, I call it winter quarter depression. It's kind of like my head hasn't been exactly where I would like it to be, but I have been able to kind of survive without feeling the need of having like those resources. And that's been huge for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all progress, Anxiety itself, mental health will come and try to affect you because it knows that you're making progress. So when that happens, you'll in the moment you could probably think like, oh man, like everything that I've worked for just is just going down the drain. Like I feel like I'm back at square one. And the way I see it now, just based off my own experiences, the way I look at it now, if perhaps, for a whole month I'm feeling great, then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, the anxiety, mental health just crashes on me, and I feel like I have no solution in the moment. It kind of takes, what I do is just like kind of first, obviously find my peace and not freak out, and kind of just re repeat to myself that this anxiety is trying to test you because it
Mhm.
knows that you've made so much progress and it's trying to
Yeah.
stop that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it never, like I said, anxiety is something that always comes and goes. It's never something that you could say I'm going to eliminate for the rest of my life because it's an emotion. It's like if that were to happen, it's like saying I'm never going to get sick from now until I die. It's impossible.
Right.
So that's also one thing that I try to try to share with just my anxiety is that it's a part of us, but it doesn't define us. And of course, we're in control. We have control of our actions. Our thoughts are not our actions. So yeah, I mean, just based off from what you're saying, you being over in college and experiencing all that, definitely, when you're kind of away from your friends, family, and just kind of taking that on your own is is very, like, very, very brave, and something that, when I was at that age, I honestly would say that I probably couldn't do because my anxiety was so high, and I just would assume that it's just going to go get even worse at the moment, and that, like, I needed to, like, seek support somewhere, or because I'm gonna just, like, lose my mind. So yeah, I definitely can see how other people perhaps who live away from home would experience that, and just obviously, people that are watching this podcast episode can relate, and definitely can say, yeah, just being away from home, being able to kind of combat that on your own, find your own solution to it is definitely a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. Um, so just more so going into college, as far as, like, not just the mental health part, but just kind of figuring yourself out. Would you say, like, you had a moment where you were like, I don't know myself yet, or like, where do I want to be? Were you ever, like, in that state of mind?
Yeah. So I say that I finally have figured myself out. I feel like I have such a great sense of who I am and what I like and what I don't like, but there was definitely a part of, or like there was a point in my life where I didn't feel that way. And the way that I kind of discriminate it is based off of my first relationship, because prior to my first relationship, I was on my own, living life, but I didn't know. I think I was just kind of living for, I'm not even sure what I was living for, but I was living for an experience, for like other people. I was saying yes to things that I think maybe I wasn't totally comfortable with, or just like didn't enjoy doing, but I was like, have to do it because like everyone else is doing it. And then I got into that first relationship and things kind of calmed down. And I still feel like I didn't really have a sense of self until after I came out of it. And I feel like with a breakup, it's usually there's a lot of self discovery that comes with it, and that was sort of the journey that I took afterwards. And it's been like 8 months now, 9 months almost. And it's crazy how different of a person I am and how much I actually know myself and can like sit here and tell you, like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is how I like function, this is how I don't function. Like, it's actually so powerful when you kind of like find yourself and recognize like who you actually are and what you actually like, when you're kind of like taking yourself away from the environment that you're in.
Yeah, and I feel like these experiences that you would go through, whether it be good or bad, in the end, it's a lesson that you learn. And, I
Mhm.
think without it, you wouldn't be able to, like you say, find yourself and find, your passion and what, you definitely want to do for the future. Myself going into college, at first, I want to say I was very stubborn, because I love sports so much that I want to go just play sports in college and then go on and play professional soccer. That was my mentality for the first year, until I went to actually play college soccer, and I just realized just playing every day just wasn't something that I liked doing. But either way, I had to experience it in order for me to find my peace and say, listen, like, all right, this is gonna be put aside. Now what's next? And like that pressure, like I said, the pressure of trying to figure yourself out sometimes gets to you. But definitely I think in college, when it comes to not only changing majors, people would change their just, I guess, their goal of what they want to do. Perhaps, coming into their freshman year, they want to be a doctor, or next thing you know, they want to be a teacher or a psychologist. There's many, I think, waves when it comes to every single year of college. You begin, like I said, much more mature, meet new people, new experiences, and certainly find yourself. Um, so going off that, um, I guess till this day, like what do you have? Like, what are your passions for the future?
Yeah, so I mean, I've kind of had this throughout, but it wasn't like I took it seriously until I feel like kind of the past year in a way. Content creation is a huge one. I am just like crazy passionate about that, and I would actually love to do that like part-time, full-time out of college. Not there yet, but I think that it's something that it's a work in progress, and I'm like trying to inch closer and closer to it. I kind of knew throughout the time that I was in college that I wanted to go into marketing, social media marketing, and that's something that I still see myself doing. So, well, actually, initially when I started college, I like totally thought I was going to get like a PhD and become a research psychologist. And while that's something that I still am like considering for, further down the road, it's not something that I like, really want to do anymore. And so I kind of then transitioned into sort of the marketing and like wanting to do that. And I've gotten some experience in it. I've tried my hand at it. And it's definitely something that I think I would consider doing like out of college, but maybe different from what I've experienced so far. So I feel like I definitely have gone on that path of just kind of like trying different things, seeing what I like, and then also like sort of actually coming back to something that I knew I liked, but didn't really put too much time into, and now really trying to like make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same route as far as content creating. Obviously, with this podcast, with this brand, trying to make a difference in people's lives and kind of bringing mental health to the table discussion. It definitely it takes a lot of, like I said, courage, a lot of just going in front of the camera, say what you got to say, and honestly, not really care what other people think about it. Because at the end of the day, you're sharing your story, and no one can tell you otherwise. So definitely it is something that I love doing, content creating, and I can see that you like doing as well with your podcast and stuff. And how do you feel like when you get those positive comments on your content?
Yeah, it's been super cool because when I posted, so I post, I guess they don't know, but I posted a TikTok a couple weeks ago that ended up getting like a ton of views, and it's talking about sort of hating college because of the feeling of loneliness and not, loving the social aspect of it. And I got so many comments and DMs from people telling me that they felt the same way and that my video actually helped them like feel a little less alone. And that's all I've ever wanted when I create content. Like I've always wanted a platform to share my own experiences with the hope that anyone else, experiencing it in real time can feel a little less alone. And feeling as if I had achieved that in some way made me feel like so over the moon. And it's been such an amazing journey, kind of like hearing from people. I've also met people through it, like hung out with them because they go to the same school as me and they were like, I feel the same way. I would love to hang out. And so, yeah, it's been a really cool journey.
Yeah, and mental health in general, there's a lot of people out there that you probably wouldn't know can relate to to your content. And I same thing for me too. Whatever I would put, someone would relate to it and obviously give their positive comments. And yeah, and like just comparing now to probably 10 years ago, mental health wasn't anything that someone would talk about. It was something that was like very taboo. And if you were to say I have anxiety, they would probably think you're crazy. So definitely, like I said, it's something that everyone has, obviously to certain degrees. But yeah, it's we're not programmed to know everything, from birth, and we go through these experiences, like I said, and it does give us these lessons, and we just grow from it. And I think that's the beautiful part of going through a mental health obstacle. Once you've overcome that, you become a much better person with more experience And you're there, if you choose to be a content creator, to help others out who maybe are going through those stages. And just myself going into college, like I said, that was my peak of anxiety where I didn't know what it was, other than just thinking that something's wrong with me. Like, am I like getting sick? Am I ill? But then, like I said, as going through college, being kind of more independent, you kind of just put yourself in that fire and kind of learn from there and get out of there, obviously a much, much better person. So for anyone, like you said, that like feels lonely in college, like if someone were to ask you, like, what can I do to improve this or not feel so down for being lonely, what would you think you'd say?
I think the most important thing is feeling comfortable with being by yourself. Loneliness is a mindset, it's not an actual state of being. And it's very easy to fall into that mindset. But if you can kind of look at like spending time alone as a positive thing, you really change your whole perspective on it. So for me, I actually started this series on my TikTok called The Lonely Girl Diary, where I try and just like get out and do something that I would usually do with other people by myself. I went to a football game, for example. Like, I don't even really like football, but I was like, I want to go see this football game and I have no one else to go with. Like, let me just go and do it. And it ended up being a great experience. And it's sort of just like growing comfortable with being alone and enjoying it, like having a good time, not letting, being alone and loneliness stop you from enjoying life. And that really has changed my perspective on it.
And so just going from that football game, so when you said, okay, I'm gonna go to this football game, did you have any feeling of like doubt for going alone during that time?
I was so nervous going into it, like literally so I was like, am I actually doing this? And then it was funny because I was in the Uber and I was telling my Uber driver this and he was like hyping me up and I was like, okay, like I can do this, I can actually do this. And when I got in, it was funny, I was not the only person who was alone. There were other people sitting alone and I ended up meeting a girl and we talked and we sat together. And so like I wasn't even alone throughout the game. And that really showed me that like you just have to put yourself in the situation, like just jump into it and, you know, let yourself feel once you actually are there.
And how'd you feel after everything was over?
Oh, it felt great. Like I was like, I did it, and I think now I'm like less afraid about going and doing things that I would have been afraid of doing.
Yeah. And that's like you could say that that's one mental health obstacle that you overcame. And certainly when it comes to trying to overcome that obstacle, you will feel the doubtness. You will feel the anxiety, try to tell you you're doing something wrong, go back. But it takes that courage to kind of just really push through. And then in the end, it's a good feeling. It's like, you're like on top of the world.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so pretty much going off that loneliness, like where else has that led you to after overcoming that obstacle?
Well, I mean, obviously, like finally sharing it on TikTok and having people like my last week, I was like so busy because I was meeting different people and like I've never been that, busy or not never, but like in a really long time. Like I haven't had so many plans in a week. And it was really nice, like being able to talk to people, getting to know other people. And yeah, I feel like that was a huge one where it was like, okay, just share it, you never know what comes out of it.
Yeah, and sometimes like once you overcome that, like you want to keep going, you want to keep doing these things that before you were kind of hesitant of doing, but now you want to do. And yeah, like I said, it's a good feeling, and you just, it goes just in that direction upward. But but yeah, I mean, like you're almost, you say you're graduating this semester.
Mhm.
Based off these past 4 years, like what would be the things that you would perhaps kind of change, that you perhaps wish you could, um, if you had the chance?
I honestly wouldn't change anything. I think everything happens for a reason and you learn from it and you take those lessons and you move forward in life. And so, yeah, while like my whole entire college experience wasn't, great, I had some bad moments. I had things that probably like no one would ever want to happen in their life, I ultimately feel like I came out stronger. And for that, like I'm really grateful for the experience I had, even though, you know, if you look at it from the outside, you may say, oh, well, I would never want to experience that. But yeah.
And would you say that like these 4 years went by quick, or would you say it went by in 4 years? Like that
I would
feeling.
say yes and no in a way. Like, there's a part of me that could, you know, is so ready to graduate and is like, I've been doing this forever. Like, this has been such a long process. But then there's also another part of me that's like, oh my God, it's coming to an end. Like, what am like, I can't believe it's coming to an end. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it's like a mix of both.
But definitely excited for, we could say, the outside world after.
Yeah, I'm excited for what comes next. I feel like I've been sort of, I mean, I can't confirm because I haven't experienced it yet, but I do feel like I've been sort of like one foot out the door with that post-grad mindset for a while. I think that my life looks, or like my lifestyle looks very different from those around me. And I think that my lifestyle probably matches, you know, more accurately with the post-grad lifestyle. So I feel like I'm gonna have an easier transition. And honestly, I'm just excited.
Yeah, yeah, and pretty much even once you graduate, like there's things that may come up as far as like career changes, like perhaps places where you want to be will change and stuff, and that's completely normal. I would say I experienced the same thing. When I finished college, I wanted to go into sales. I did sales, didn't like it, then go into broadcasting, which was for grad school, and then I realized I didn't like that either. But what I learned from grad school in broadcasting was how to do social media. And that pretty much is something that I took from there, even though it was a hefty loan for me, but I learned how to, I found my passion. And that's something that I wouldn't take away. So definitely, like I said, these experiences do happen for a reason, and it's a good reason because you learn from it.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we have for this podcast. But just going into your own content and stuff, like basically just give a quick summary of what it's mostly about and where people could find you.
Well, I feel like my content is all over the place, but it's just being real and vulnerable and sort of sharing like what I'm experiencing in my life and present time, hoping that it helps other people out. So I've done a lot of content on like no contact after a breakup, and that's gotten a lot of views. And then also just talking about my experience with college, being vulnerable about that, sharing different experiences I had, like being an out-of-state student, etc. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And where can they find you?
Okay, so it's at Sophia Indie, so INDI on TikTok, and then Sophia Jan. Oh, and it's with a PH because I know people say F. Last name JAIN on YouTube, and then you can also find my podcast on whatever streaming platform you listen to. So that's Life on Audio.
Awesome. Yeah, guys. So pretty much I will put her all the links on the description below. This podcast will be on YouTube, so you'll find all of her information there. Definitely give her a follow. I saw some content, great stuff, and very informative. So yeah, check that out. But Sophia, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
very
you for
first
having me. This was so
podcast.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And definitely, of course, with each episode, trying to change lives of other college students in kind of being kind of relatable to them. And hopefully these types of discussions will help them out, based off their path into the college life. But all right, guys, I will see you all for the next episode. Take care.